Good afternoon. I know I missed a day of streaming yesterday. I was having a bit of an exhausted day, and I know when I get that tired, I have to just take a break. So I took yesterday afternoon off, and then I worked hard this morning. I ran some errands, which is really weird because we don't go out very often, and did some cooking and shipped out all the Patreon rewards and got a whole bunch of other stuff done. So now I am going to be doing a demo where I'm going to be painting with ink. I've shown a lot of drawing with pens, but I haven't shown you guys how I paint with ink, at least not on Twitch. So I thought that that would be what we would do this afternoon. And what I will be working on is every month on Patreon, folks vote or suggest ideas for what they most want to see me create. And then I pick a bunch of the ones with the highest votes. We do that. And the one that by far, I think we still have like a day left on voting, but that by far is in the lead, so I'm definitely doing it, is this idea of tiny little dragons or drakes that live or hang out in teapots and teacups and sugar bowls and things like that. So, unfortunately, there's some weird patterning coming through with my curtains pulled with the sun, but you can see I've got a sketch here, very rough, of a teapot and a stack of teacups, sugar bowl, a creamer, and some dragons. Now, sometimes I would do a much more detailed drawing, but I have a pretty good idea of what I want this to look like, so I'm just gonna really kind of have fun and do a lot of it in ink. And I'm gonna be using brown ink for this one. In this case, it is FW acrylic artist ink, but really any acrylic ink is good. It's because when it dries, it's waterproof, so if you're planning to add watercolor, which I am, it won't be an issue. It won't smudge. Then you need some water, and I just save old jars, preferably those with a seal on them. So this is from Jam because any jar of preserves has got like a nice rubber seal around the inside, so it won't tend to leak or something if you're transporting your water. And it's a nice big jar for cleaning brushes or if I want to water down my ink, and then I can use the lid as a place to put the ink I'm going to be painting with, and I'll just rinse it out afterwards. I've got a brush. I'm using a really small one for this. It's probably overkill. It's a 10-0, which means it's 1/10 of a size 0, so it's really, really small. And I've got a napkin just for kind of blotting things. So the first thing I do is make sure my ink is all shook up. With a color like black, it probably wouldn't matter, but with brown, things can kind of settle. Acrylic inks, you always want to give them a good shake. Sometimes the lids on these can stick, so you gotta be careful taking them off, but it seems pretty good. Get some in the eyedropper and put some on the lid here. One of the nice things about saving jars is if your lids get too gunky, you can get rid of them, or you can have one just for inking that you don't care if it gets all gunked up, because once this dries, it won't cause any harm. And I'm going to start obviously at the top of the piece because I don't want to smudge my ink as I go, so it's easier if I start with this dragon at the top. And what I'm going to do is zoom this in for you guys. That way you can see him a little better. And I always kind of wet my brush, make sure it's nice and flexible first. And then we pick up, I'll put the ink up here so you guys can see it well. And again, you can't see my pencil drawing that well just because, I mean, I put the brightness down even so you could see it a bit because I draw really lightly when I'm planning to erase the whole thing later. So I'm going to start off with the dragon's eye. Just like I would with watercolor if I was outlining, I'm going to start basically drawing with my brush. And if you use a really small brush, it gives you a lot of flexibility for if you make mistakes or have issues, you can just thicken your lines. And inking with a brush is a little bit different. You're going to get more line variation and I feel like personality than you would using a pen if your pen is kind of a fixed size. So when I use pen, I tend to go back and thicken lines and put personality in, and don't really have to do that with these guys. And I like the brown ink because I'll still be able to scan this and darken it up to a nice black coloring page, so we can have a version that folks can color on Patreon before I do my colored paint. But I also feel like brown is a little less stark and a little more natural looking than just doing it with black ink. So it's kind of cool. And with painting it, you can actually add some shadows with some watered down ink, and I'm going to show a bunch of that. So a lot of the work is going to be done with the ink versus the paint. And I'm hoping we'll get a couple folks tuning. I should probably mention we actually hit the Twitch affiliate status, which is awesome. It means we have at least 50 followers on Twitch. It means that you now have the option to subscribe if you choose to, so you won't have ads and you get some extra emotes and stuff like that. I don't really know if I'm going to get subscribers on Twitch, since I know a lot of you guys already subscribe to Patreon. And as I said, the Patreon subscribers are the ones who kind of pick what I'm going to paint out of a bunch of ideas that either I have or they contribute. It's sort of a hybrid process. You can see we've already got one little guy. Oh, you changed your name, Ninja Ferret. It's got like underlines and stuff now, so it's even more readable. Hello! So a lot of people find it really intimidating to work with ink, unless you're like a very traditional comic book inker, because they used to always do this with ink and a brush versus using a pen. But I love kind of the feel of it, and I love the option of doing different colors and things like that. And this is actually showing up a little darker. See if I could pull the contrast back. And I was trying to make it dark enough for you guys to see my pencil drawing. Oh no, you can't access your original Twitch account. That's super weird. I wonder what happened there. Because I know you were streaming on that one. Huh. That's weird. Well, I'm glad you have another one. I had a long debate as to if I wanted to use my own name or use something else for the Twitch account, but I thought Rare Dragons would match the website and make it a bit easier to remember, because everyone remembers my name as Jennifer instead of Jessica for some reason. So yeah, today we are working on, we call them tiny teapot drakes, and I want to give them very curly tails, almost like chameleons. And one of the reasons is when I do field guides, I love to have weird little details and things in the name. Like if you look at a field guide for birds, for example, you'll often see a white-tailed hawk or a red-tailed hawk or a striped hawk. So I love the idea of having something that can lead to a more interesting and scientific name. So these are going to be curly-tailed tiny tea drakes. And they love to move in if you have a storage cupboard full of old teacups or teapots or tea sets that you're not using. They just sort of make themselves at home. So they don't go so much for stuff that actually has tea in it at the time. They, oh, that sucks that your account got hacked. I always worry about that. I try to be really, really careful about mine. I use all the like double authentications and stuff because I worry about those sorts of things happening. I was trying to stream a little later today because I've been doing like a ton of morning streams. I sound terrible. I'm like, my voice is all squeaky. It's I have really bad allergies. And that's what happened to me yesterday. Yeah, two-factor authentication on everything. A lot more and more places are insisting on it. And if it's a pain to get like texts, you can put an app on your phone that'll just send a message to that. But yeah, yesterday, what happened was I got sick like over 2 weeks ago and got well. And they still don't know if we had the virus or just a similar virus. We did have fevers, but they were very mild. We never got a cough, but we were super tired. So I had to take a day or two off from work 2 weeks ago. And then I was like all anxious about catching up because I'm a workaholic, and I always feel like, especially right now with everyone stuck at home, I want to get everyone their Kickstarter books or their Patreon stuff as fast as possible. And so then, as soon as I was able to go back to work after that day and a half off, I didn't take it any time off at all for about 10 days. And that was a big mistake. Don't do that. So yesterday, I was working on prepping all the Patreon swag for mailing, and my cutter was acting up, and I was getting more and more stressed out and annoyed. My boyfriend was sick again. It turns out he has a sinus infection, so it's not contagious, which is good. We got him to urgent care yesterday, and he gets to be on antibiotics now, which is super fun. But fortunately, it'll clear up, and he's had them before, so at least it's nothing serious. So yeah, all that stuff was kind of weighing on my mind, and I was getting stressed out. I realized I was just exhausted. I had a terrible headache, so I was like, I'm taking the afternoon off. So I took yesterday afternoon, evening off. I played some video games. I watched some TV. I'm really sad because we just finished the Sherlock Holmes anime today, and I don't know if they're doing another season. But I'm really excited because I guess it was one of the few that was an original story, and now they're doing a manga and a bunch of other things, a novel and everything, because the anime's done well enough in Japan, so it kind of went the opposite way. Ooh, sinus infection is no fun. Yeah, I never had a Penny Dreadful. I'm very familiar with what they are because I read a lot of period mysteries. It just seemed a little too. I have to be careful about ick factor in things because I have an incredibly vivid imagination and I do not want to have nightmares. This guy's kind of. So this guy's actually sitting on the teapot. I don't know if that's obvious, so you're going to see a little more of him. I wanted to kind of have one kind of on the outside. And he's going to have a super fun curly tail because they're awesome. Isn't he cute? Yeah, the actual picture has, since you came in a little later, it's got a whole bunch of them. I zoomed it in so I could show me ink and close up. It's got a stack of 3 teacups and a sugar bowl and stuff. This is not a matching tea set. There's gonna be because I thought it'd be really fun to do when I get to color to do these as all different patterned teacups. So this one's gonna have stripes, and we'll put some flowers on this one. And when I was sketching this out earlier today, I did Google a bunch of teapots and teacups for reference because I'm not super familiar with some of the handle styles. I've done a bunch of them, but it does help to actually look at real ones. So I'll look at ones for sale and kind of pull ideas from there. And the idea is this is sort of all the mismatched china that someone's forgotten in their cupboard, and these little guys have moved in. So I thought it'd be super cute to have them kind of living in the old china. And like I said, I thought it'd be really cool to show kind of inking my first book. My first field guide book, Dragon Scale, was a combination of pencil drawings that had digital color, and then a lot of drawings done this way where I inked them with a brush and then did watercolor because it's less work in the watercolor if you do some of the shading with ink first. And this is not only brown ink, it's specifically, it should say on here somewhere, it tends to hide. It's specifically sepia ink. I think it's the part of the label that's peeling off, of course. Oh, we got a couple people in watching now. Hi, guys. If you guys have any questions or comments or just want to chat, I am super happy to have some company. I always joke that I'm totally fine because I work from home most of the time, but I usually go out to the coffee shop or just I'm around other people who are working on laptops or doing things, so it's weird to spend weeks and weeks at home. Though I did go out to the grocery store this morning and get us the important things, food and stamps for Patreon mailing, and I may have also grabbed some booze, but only because I was there already. I did not make a booze run. Ah, you're a Black Crown person. Yeah, the only reason I don't go to Black Crown as much, and I probably should start going, there's 2 reasons. It's a little, well, okay, 3 then, if you get it. It's a little farther from me. It's about 15 minutes from where I live in Tucson. And I should probably go more just because they're open at night, and my coffee shop that's 5 minutes from me closes at like 3 in the afternoon. So I could do like the morning at one and the evening at the other. But the main reason is that I really hate the parking situation there. It's just tricky to park there. It's like a weird way to enter, getting in and out. That parking lot's just a lot tighter. So I don't love that part. And then they don't really have a lot of food options, and I can't drink their coffee because for some reason, even their cold brew is too acidic for me, so it upsets my stomach. But I do love their Moroccan mint tea a lot. And I used to go there more when I had a friend who lived really. I actually had two friends who lived walking distance from there, and now they've both moved away. So yeah, I park at Korea House sometimes too. I don't think we're technically supposed to, but I don't know. That sign is so old and rusty that says that it's Korea House parking only. I can't even tell if Korea House ever gets any business, so I don't know. But we're talking about our local coffee shops. Tucson has two things. We have an great surplus, which is actually awesome. Tattoo shops and coffee shops. We have tons and tons and tons of both. So the first 4 or 5 years I lived here, I hung out at a place called Epic Cafe. I even used to hand paint mugs that they'd sell there. And then they all kind of changed hands, and downtown added um, parking meters and parking limitations, which just got really annoying. And then I moved when I ended up owning a house slightly farther east. And then I discovered a place called Le Buzz Cafe, which just opened their second one, which is a little more central than the one I go to, which is more on the east side. But the one on the east side near me, I think this is either their 23rd or 24th year in business. They've been there a long time. And it's a really chill place. I wish it were open in the evening. It's only open in morning and afternoon, but their food is amazing. All their drinks are amazing, and all of the staff is so nice. They did close, which has really sucked, but they're reopening on the 8th. I'm super excited for that. It'll just be for like to go coffee and takeout, but I miss my coffee shop, so. So as you can see, I'm getting some variation in like how dark things are because of how much ink I do or don't have, or the line thickness, but I don't really mind that. I'll go ahead and kind of tweak things a little bit, but for all, it's starting to look pretty good. No one cares if you park there, huh? All right, I'll have to try to get out more in the evenings. I'm kind of most productive earlier in the day, and then the evenings are when I want to like go dancing or relax more. So I'm not always working on stuff, but I could do like afternoons there, try to vary it up sometimes. I used to go there more, as I said, when I had more friends who lived nearby, and then a lot of them have moved from the first bunch of years I was in Tucson. They've moved out of town, usually to like Phoenix area or other spots because they graduated from school or met someone and moved in with them or things like that. So, oh, I don't know if the waves thing works here. There are emotes though. I even put in let me put some special ones in if we get subscribers on here, which I thought was kind of cool for badges and emotes. So I'm kind of still learning how all that works. I thought it was cool. I hit affiliate, and then I think Plastic Disease and Mojito, who are two of our local DJs, we all hit affiliate on Twitch on the same day earlier this week, which was kind of cool. I think it was Saturday that we all hit that. So I still feel like a newbie when it comes to Twitch streaming, but I'm learning, and it's definitely a lot easier than other types of videos or streaming I've done in the past. Um, well, I still know you're waving even if you can't use the /waves command in here. So yeah, we're planning, as long as my Patreon subscribers are cool with it. What I used to do was do YouTube videos where I'd record a video, then I'd go speed up the video, maybe add some music, spend quite a bit of time getting it all into the right format, and upload it to YouTube. And it would be for subscribers only for some time, and then it would go public usually 3 to 6 months later. But I've noticed that I get fewer. I really don't get a lot of views on those videos. It's just not something that my Patreon subscribers are that into, that it just, I'll get like 2 or 3 views on a video. So what I decided to do, as long as they're okay with it, and I posted on Patreon about this morning, is to change it where I just do Twitch streaming and put copies of those videos on YouTube for everybody. And then I will be doing specific tutorials on how a lot of the paintings are done with PDFs and full lists of materials and more step-by-step stuff for a lot of the same pictures. And they'll just get a lot more tutorials and things, which I think is a bit better. Yeah, I haven't set up any bots. I haven't really had a reason to do either bots or mods yet. We haven't had enough people in channel yet, but I think these guys are going to be cute. I have to kind of decide where they originated from. Probably somewhere in England if they are teapot dwelling creatures. And I don't know what colors and things they're gonna be. I don't know if I'll get there. I do know there's some artists on here who have like thousands of people who tune into their streams, and that's a little scary. I don't know if I've ever had that many people watch me at once. I've done projector presentations and drawing stuff at some of the bigger conventions for probably a couple hundred people. The hard thing about that is I can't answer everyone's questions, which is a little sad. I always try to be like, come by my booth at the convention after if I have one and ask questions. But I'm trying to make this teapot look like it has some sort of fancy painted border here at the top. Yeah, I intentionally decided these would all be completely mismatched china since it's been put away. Well, there's no tea in these because they're disused. These are the tiny tea drakes that move into mismatched tea sets left in cupboards and things like that. No streamer can answer all the questions. I try. I've always tried. I think it just depends. I was tuning into somebody who just started streaming, but she has such a huge YouTube following. Like her first couple of streams had like 3,000 people in them, and her mods were just trying to keep up. I felt it was like, whoa, that's a lot. I wouldn't want to start out with that many. Uh, you have no time to kind of get used to Twitch if that's the case. So I think I can go ahead and zoom us out just a little more now. I'm trying to show more of the piece, but I wanted to kind of show that part a little more close up. So, and I don't worry about getting everything perfect. It really doesn't need to be for the type of art that I do. People like it better when it has a little character. And I actually love the way brown ink looks with watercolor. I think it looks kind of super antique and neat. And this is going to be really whimsical when I do add color, so I think we'll do some very Alice in Wonderland looking teacups for these guys down here. And if anybody missed the beginning of the video where I was talking about what type of ink I'm using or materials and you guys have questions, I'm super happy to answer. I try to include that at the beginning, so if we have people rewatching videos, they get all that info. And yeah, I can't draw a teapot or a sugar bowl or anything from memory, so I just looked at like 5 or 6 tea sets online and took about 15 minutes to do a really quick sketch that I'm inking over. And most of my other Twitch videos I have used pen, so I thought it would be cool to show what kind of things you can get with a brush. And once I have some of the basic ink in here, I'm actually going to do I'll erase the pencil lines and then I'll do a whole bunch of shading with this ink as well. Sorry, there's like a weird little bit of a stripe. I don't know if it's no, it's not my water thing. It's just the sun trying to get through my curtains that aren't full blackout curtains in here. It's very sunny outside here at 4:55 in the afternoon. And it got very hot this week. I'm trying really hard not to have to use the AC too much, but I have a feeling this evening it might get turned on. it's coming along. And I thought it'd be cool if it says like sugar on the sugar bowl and some somewhat fancy letters. We'll see how I do it. Not the best at lettering, but I've learned to kind of like look at a lot of fonts and memorize kind of things from them, and then I try to letter in a similar way. But I know people who spend all their time just learning lettering who are way better at it than I am, but we'll see here. I know a lot of people are getting kind of stir crazy or having a hard time right now, and I'm sorry. I try to find a lot of things to keep me interested. I usually have so many projects in my mind that it isn't a case where I ever really get bored. Do get tired though. Like I said, I got really burnt out yesterday, and I know to watch for that. And I just realized how like stressed out I felt over absolutely nothing. So I was like, I gotta take a break. So I leveled my character up in Path of Exile a bit and attacked a bunch of undead creatures, and now I feel better. And we've been pondering if I should do video game streaming as well, but I feel like that's kind of playing Path of Exile and Sims is kind of my recreation. And if I start streaming that too, maybe I'd have to use a separate account, or I don't know if the same audience would want it. So part of the problem when I paint something like this is I'm like, I really want a tea set with a cool sugar bowl. Yeah, I live in Tucson, but it went from very cold to very hot. And there's allergies, so super fun. It also gets much hotter in the office where I am because we have 3 computers in here. So and the sun comes through the windows, even with the curtains pulled, it tends to warm up a lot. It's not hot every week. It has been very nice until about the last 7 or 8 days, and then it started getting warmer. Tucson actually doesn't get that hot compared to Arizona in general, like Phoenix, or actually Flagstaff was worse heat wise when I lived there because most places didn't really have AC, and the type of sun up there is much more likely to burn you, which sucks. So yeah, I would say it's nice here, really comfortable, except for maybe um, June, July, August. And it would be really comfortable. It's actually really nice outside. It's just warm in the office where I am because I'm trying to just wait an hour for it to cool off. Because as soon as the sun goes down, we have a nice breeze. It'll be gorgeous again. And so I don't really feel like putting the AC on for like an hour or two because it can get expensive. So I try to be stubborn and not use it too much too early, especially because the rest of the house is fine and it's not too bad in here with the curtains pulled. Um, and actually, it didn't get hot for as long where I grew up on the East Coast, but it was way more uncomfortable than when it gets hot here. Here, you just stay out of the sun, put on the AC. Don't try to like go do things outside in the middle of the day in the middle of the summer, and you're good. Whereas in upstate New York, it didn't really matter. Like nothing could really. First of all, there was no central air anywhere, um, and window units just do not cut it. And the humidity level was so high that you would just feel sticky all the time. You would have mosquitoes find you everywhere, even inside, no matter what you did. It was really bad. Oh, this guy looks so happy. Look at his cute little face. Yeah, a lot of times I plan out a bit more than I have here as far as the exact details in pencil, but because I've done so many dragons that I had a pretty good idea of where these guys were going to be and what they were going to look like, I just did very sort of general shapes for them, and I'm adding most of the detail in the ink here, and I'm kind of making them a little bit like the ink dragons I've painted. I've done like these little ink gremlins that everybody likes, but these guys aren't quite as messy. They're a little more gentle, I think. I think they just move into cupboards when people forget and leave their tea sets, their mismatched china. I think everybody has like mugs or cups that don't quite match. And this probably looks strange because this is not a cup. This is a cream pitcher. So that's what this thing is. This is the spout. That's why it's sticking out all weird. It is not me drying a cup really badly. It is me attempting to do a creamer. And I'm trying to decide if these guys are kind of helpful household critters or if they're a little more mischievous. And one of the things I do when I'm using ink that is like this, it's acrylic based. When it dries, it's waterproof. So you see me go over and kind of dip my brush and rinse it out, and I'm actually wiping it on this napkin. It's because the ink can kind of work its way up to the base of the brush if you're not careful, and then it'll dry and harden there and kind of destroy your brush. So it's good to rinse it out occasionally. Hi, Vamp Feline. Are you not working today, or you have survived work and got afterwards? I know you're streaming later. It's actually why I was doing my stream now. I was like, I will be done in time, and then I can relax and listen to your awesome tunes. So I try to plan. It's so funny today. I'm planning around everybody. So my buddy Madame Askew was streaming on Facebook like 2 hours ago. Briefly, she was showing us how she does fancy hairstyles with bobby pins and things, which I know nothing about how to do. So now it's like, I'm like, do I have bobby pins? Because I can't justify that as an essential item to run out to the store and get. But I kind of want to play with doing crazy updos on my hair, having watched her do that and make it look like it's super easy. Though she has way more hair than I have. Um, so she was streaming, and then Vamp Feline is doing awesome music tonight. She's DJing, and then later tonight, Madame Askew is going to be streaming again and sewing some sort of project, which I don't know as much about sewing. She's the gal who's in charge of our steampunk society here in Tucson and is a bit of a celebrity both here and all over the internet and at conventions. She's one of the coolest people you will ever meet and has been since very early on a big supporter of my art and encouraged me to do things like stream and do conventions and get out there more. So she's one of the nicest people I have ever met. And I am hoping when all this is settled down, I will be able to have tea with her again in person because we have not been able to do so for some time. So yeah, I think this cup will have some sort of floral border here. So I'm just kind of doing little star-shaped flowers. Sorry, this is not a cup. This creamer will have a floral border here. And this one has like the teapot's got like a fancy spiral border. Oh, I should add her to the group. She's streaming on Facebook, but she's going to start streaming on Twitch more, and she mainly streams for, I mean, anybody can tune in, but for her Patreon subscribers, of which I am one. And she's able to do an absolutely amazing accent and personality the whole time, which I think makes it really fun for anybody tuning in. And her cat often comes into the video as well, Monsieur Gâteau, also known as Cake, who is a big floofy cat. I love him. I have never met him in person because every time we try to hang out, things like the world getting quarantined happen. And we usually end up having like tea somewhere. And I know Madame Askew because she supported one of my really early Kickstarters, which was a Clockwork Art Nouveau book that I did. And she owns a bunch of the originals from that project. I might have made this guy too cute. His eyes closed and he's kind of like, hee. I think that they're like very joyful. I kind of was thinking of like chameleons, but they're dragons. So they have dragon faces, but they have very curly tails. And I don't know. I always think of chameleons as being really happy. I don't know why that is. They seem that way to me whenever I've watched them. Yeah, her cat's awesome. I love hearing everybody's cat names. I think we're all. I don't know. I thought I was clever. I learned after a couple of cats you shouldn't name them after deities. That probably creates a bit of a complex. Yeah, it was cool when I was at the store this morning. The lady in front of me had like a huge cart, and at first I was thinking, "Gosh, she's buying an awful lot of stuff." But then when she was checking out, because they have us all spaced like 8 feet apart for checkout, and we have to wait and all that. What it is when someone in her neighborhood just needs a few things, whoever's going to the store for a larger amount of groceries, I guess they have a way of, I don't know if they call or they use a forum, but they kind of do a combined shop, and then just drop off the groceries and pick up some, I guess, some cash that's waiting for them or whatever. So I think that's pretty cool. At least it keeps the store from being overly crowded if somebody just needs like a gallon of milk or something, and there's someone else who needs a lot more to have them go do that for you. This guy looks a little grumpier. Oh, I guess naming them after fantasy characters could be dangerous to me. And I did well. I don't know if it counts as a fantasy character though, because my oldest boy kitty is named Bastion Balthazar Bucks, and he was actually already named Bastion when I got him, so I just added the rest, which is the full name of the little boy in Neverending Story. So I don't know if that counts as a fantasy character since he's one of the non-fantastical characters in the book. He's the main character, but this is actually coming along pretty fast. And I don't know how well you guys can see my pencil because I did it really light because I want to be able to erase it. But I do actually have a pencil drawing that I'm following with my ink. And I want these guys to be a little bit whimsical, a little bit Alice in Wonderland esque, but with curly tails. So I haven't decided what their colors are going to be yet for sure. I'm thinking on that a bit. This guy's just going to be kind of lounging out here, and you won't see his legs too much. They're down here. They're just in the teacup. Oh, good. You guys can see. I don't know. I try to get the light good, and then the sun does weird things. Even when I pull the curtains, or what's well lit for watercolor won't work as well for this, where I need to show kind of the pencil lines. And I actually find it faster to ink with a brush than with a pen because it flows a little smoother. But that might just be me. As I said, I'm being very careful of the order I'm doing it in so my hand isn't resting on any wet ink. I mean, this guy's already dry, so it takes about a minute for this ink to dry, depending on how thick you put it on, because I'm on watercolor paper, so it's very absorbent. I'm on watercolor paper, so we can add watercolor. Oh, I did add a mug and shirt. You noticed that. Yeah, after everybody kind of yelled at me for not putting stuff up with the lemon lime griffin I painted, I put stuff up in the subscriber store and then it'll move to the public store later. I can actually put any of my art in any of that stuff because Printful does it on demand. The issue is I usually just have to prep the artwork for it, which can take, with that and setting up the products, like 10-15 minutes to set up. So obviously I can't do it for everything because of a time concern, and I don't want to like add that many new products to my site every month. So I try to kind of listen to what people want the most and go from there. We got a couple people tuning in today. That makes me happy. I think I was doing a lot more morning streams for a bit, and I'm trying to rotate them because I know we've had people tune in from Norway in the morning. We've had people tune in from Scotland. But then some of the locals, you guys like it a little better later in the day, so I'm trying to vary it up. I'm trying to give this teacup a very, very fancy handle. I think that would be cool. And I've talked about this a bit before, whether you're using watercolor or a pen or you're painting with ink like I'm doing now. Um, in order to have a steady hand and that sort of stuff, a lot of it is just practice. Learning how to plant your hand. You'll see that my hand's not on the drawing, it's actually on this is the watercolor paper that I'm using. I cut this down from this bigger pad. So I'm resting it on here if I can, or earlier on the part where I hadn't inked yet. And then when I'm doing a lot of ink, I'm not moving my whole hand. Like this part of my hand, the side of my hand is staying put, which gives me a lot of control. And I learned the most about inking and like how to hold your hand and stuff like that. I'm trying to think. I think it was I have like some design DVDs from Nomon, which is the school I went to in LA for creature design. And one of them is like spaceship design by one of the concept artists who did a lot of the 90s and 2000 Star Wars stuff. And they have a lot of straight lines on ships and stuff. And he talks about how to practice straight lines and how to plant your hand and things like that. And that helped me a lot. Even though I'm really not doing much of any straight lines in this painting. Uh, and once everything's kind of here, I'm going to play around with some of the shading and how bold some of the lines are, make sure it looks good. I like having some variation, which is why I've got thin and thick lines kind of going on. But I'm going to try to do some shadows and cool things like that. And the only thing is, if I want to do a coloring page of this, I really want to get a quick scan of it before I've done all that. So that the coloring page version won't have too much stuff in it. Try to keep it a little bit cleaner, and then I have a couple digital tricks for cleaning up and simplifying stuff for coloring pages to have them be kind of optimized for black and white coloring books. But yeah, the only thing about this is, unlike watercolor, you can't lift this back out. I might be able to fix it with some white ink, but this is super permanent acrylic ink. And I've used black as well on pieces, but I'm a slightly bigger fan of using the brown, unless you want that really bold look, because this will blend in to make almost like an antique look with the watercolor, which is really cool. And I think it looks a little more natural than using black. Also, I'm almost out of my black liquid ink because I don't use it that often. So yeah, it would have been a little bit of a challenge to make everything match. So I thought it would be more fun if these were all different designs for them. Like it's a very mismatched set of cups, maybe like in an antique shop or in a cupboard somewhere. And then if you get it out to make tea because you need extra cups for a party or something, discovering all these little dragons have been nesting in there, that would be fun. And I've been learning a lot about teacup handle designs and things. I was looking at a whole ton of different ones, and I thought I would have some fun with those. If I were trying to do a really realistic painting, I would probably use cups I actually have and try to set up a situation where I got specific lighting and take reference photos, but I don't usually do anything quite that elaborate for my illustrations. I did when I was in art school. I learned to do a lot of stuff like that, but I don't feel it's as necessary. I kind of like them to have a little bit of a cartoon quality and a whimsy, which is why I don't worry about my lines being perfect. I think it's really easy to get caught up in worrying about making things perfect with art, which I did for many years, and then realized that my pieces that sold the best were the ones where I was just having fun. And they were a little wackier and they were not perfect. And then I learned to relax a lot more. And when I've taught watercolor, the hardest part is getting people to kind of relax more. It's so easy to be worried about doing it right, and then you tense up your hands and you just don't get a good flow to what you're doing. There we go. Like I said, I don't worry about it being perfect. Okay, so this mug or cup, I really wanted to have some zany stripes on because I'm going to use some crazy colors on some of these. I thought about doing this in delicate pastels, and I've been thinking also about doing it in bright, kind of crazy colors, and I think I might fall somewhere in the middle where they're maybe pastels, but they might be some wacky colors. My brush keeps drying, and I think it's because I almost used up the ink I've got in my little lid here, but I don't really think we need more to finish this up since I'm almost done. Whoop. Fortunately, if you do have like a spot like I just got there, it's pretty easy to blot out, and once I add the color, you won't see it. So I want to do something kind of crazy with the middle of this design. There's going to be some sort of weird swirly thing on the cup here. This will be cool when I actually paint it. Okay. So now I am realizing I don't have my eraser here, do I? All right, I'm going to get my erasers really quick since apparently I left them in the other room. Okay, so my handy dandy art bin box that has all my stuff in it. I'm going to use a kneaded eraser. It looks like this because this one's been used a bit. They come in squares and then they kind of look like gum, but they're not sticky. And they work really well if you just want to gently erase things like pencil lines without damaging paper. Some other erasers can get harder and can kind of really scratch up your paper, and you don't want that if you're going to be adding watercolor. Okay. And I just got to make sure that this part's all dry. It's still kind of drying down there. I'll do the upper part here. This is my favorite guy because he's all happily hanging out. Now I'm getting crazy lighting. Why is that coming out so bright? I don't know where all this glare is coming from. That's weird. There we go. Yeah, it's like they come in either big squares or little squares, and they literally are like, they're called kneaded erasers. In fact, when kids used to get bored in my art classes, they would sculpt things out of them. They're a really weird material. But they're great for two things. One is if you just want to lighten a pencil line, you can kind of tap it. And come on, lighting. There we go. The other is that if you're removing pencil and you don't want to scratch up your paper, like for watercolor, it works really well. I use those, and then I also use, when I'm doing more elaborate pencil drawings, I use these guys, which are like mechanical pencils, except they're erasers. This one's a Tough Stuff, and this one's just a Pentel click eraser. So it's literally just a giant eraser stick. And they're white erasers, and they again don't damage stuff. The pink ones are usually pretty dangerous because they dry out, and whether they're on the end of a pencil or you have a separate eraser, they can kind of be really tough on the paper. So I tend to stick with white erasers, and I just use those two sticks, or mainly this guy. And I love that you can shape it. You can actually draw with it. I don't know why I'm getting weird lighting, but hopefully once I get this all erased, it'll settle itself down. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do super quick, which is probably going to annoy everyone because it's going to take a minute, is I'm actually going to scan a copy of this so I can make a coloring page. Fortunately, my scanner is right here. And because it's so big, I scan in two parts. I'm going to get stuck back together. And then we're going to have fun adding color. So in the meantime, if anyone has questions, and I can show this is the brand of watercolor paper I recommend. I'm actually using this size sheet. I don't know, I'm getting so much glare. Oh, it might be my water thing is like causing something, or it's the bright burning ball of light outside my window that could also do it. Because I have a light here, but it's not, oh, it might be that. Maybe I just don't need the light right now because there's so much sun. We'll try turning it off. That's better. I'm just getting this scanned. There we go. And I do a lot of mischievous dragons and creatures in general. I don't know how that kind of became my thing. It was not something I set out to do intentionally. Okay. In theory, that should do it for scanning. Appreciate you guys having patience so that I'm able to post an awesome coloring page for people. I try to remember to do that if I've done something in ink, just because it gives me more flexibility for like my coloring books and other projects. I'm just double checking both my scan files are showing up here. There we go. Great. Okay. Now watch, my lighting's probably all messed up again. Oh, it's not too bad. I think it's a little, well, maybe not too dark. Just add a little more light in. Okay. So now I don't have enough ink in here for it to really be an issue. I can still use this water. It's pretty clean. So now I've got all my paints here. I've talked about this before. I use paints that come in tubes. I mainly use Shinhan and Koi brand, and then a little bit of Daniel Smith, which is the only expensive paint I use. I recommend Shinhan as a great brand to start with, or Koi. It's like the fish, because you can get sets of a lot of colors, and they're going to last you a long, long time. So I get them in tubes, and then I just have a metal palette. They're about $10 to buy. You could fill them, and they close like this, so they're super portable if you're someone who takes your paints anywhere with you. And the best thing about watercolor is if it dries out, it doesn't matter because you can re-wet it. So your paints never really go bad unless you maybe expose them to really extreme temperatures of like really hot or really cold. But I haven't had any huge issues with that. I don't leave like my tubes of paint sitting in the car though in the summer here because it gets very hot. And even with them all capped and stuff, it's really not good for your paint. So now we are ready to start painting our happy little tea dragons, and I'm trying to decide what color the dragons should be. If this species should have color variation, like they're all going to be different. What do you guys think? Should they be 3 different colors? Or maybe similar colors with different color bellies? Well, one of the things I did want to do, I'll go back with our ink while we think about color, is I wanted to add some more shading. That isn't necessary for the coloring page, but will save me a little more time here. So I'm just using a bigger brush, and I've added some water to the ink. So it's kind of this light brown now. And it is a great way to very quickly throw in shading. And I'm realizing I didn't show the other side of this, which you would see. I'll have to fix that on my coloring page. Add that line. There we go. And I don't like too much of a solid color for that, so I try to add some variation. So this is just kind of the background of the shelf a little bit, or the pantry, or wherever these are stored at. It's just to give it less of a floating look and different colors. Okay. I wonder what causes them to be different colors. I wonder if they change color or if they're born in different colors. I always think about that stuff because when I end up putting them in the books, I write about them and kind of explain all of that. So the neat thing about this brown ink is, like I said, if you water it down, it's a really great quick way to just get a cool little blended background. And it kind of ends up looking very antique. And if you want to look super antique, you can add yellow or gold with it. It'll work really well. Or there have been cases where I've actually done paintings with coffee, and coffee smells a little bit. It'll air out and stop smelling, but it is really good if you want antique looking colors. I've even known artists who have painted with wine, but some wines can be very sticky, so that can be kind of an issue. But I think when you're traveling, you kind of might use what's on hand. So, and one of these I'll have to do a demo. I don't tend to use watercolor pencils because, again, I'd rather just use watercolor. But I do have Inktense pencils where they draw like a colored pencil, but when you wet them, they turn into ink, kind of like this, which is really cool. I don't know how they make powdered ink into a pencil, but the technology of newer art supplies is amazing and really cool. One of the other pictures that has gotten a lot of votes that is definitely going to happen this month involves a goblin tea party, which I am very excited for because I love goblins. So I haven't got to do a cool picture with a lot of goblins since I did, I think, the Goblin Library a number of years ago. So I'm super excited about that. There we go. So right away you can see it sort of grounds the piece and adds some nice background to it. And it's really, really quick to do. I'm just going to add a little more up here, but I don't think it needs too much. I tend to think most of the darker shadows are going to be near the bottom. And I've shown this, you have some of those, awesome. I really like them. They're a really cool way to do sketches when you travel and kind of turn them into ink wash paintings. So I'm actually going to do a little shading, very watered down on the teapot itself. This just, because this is waterproof, it won't smudge when I add color on top of it. So it's a really cool way, like a dry piece of ink there. There we go. it's a really cool way to get some base shading that will kind of make this piece match and look a bit antique. And you can do a painting just with brown ink, or with brown ink in a few select colors, or you can add full color on top of it. But I think it makes a really cool antique sort of look. And I don't have to think too much in color at this stage. And then I get to add all the color in. Here's what we're going to do next. I'm kind of impressed I got that all inked and kind of shaded in an hour. I've gotten a lot faster, I feel like, since I started streaming. Because once something is kind of in concept form, I can just relax and work on details. It's usually the concepts that can take longer, since I already had an idea kind of sketched out. It's a little faster. I just want to shade these guys in just a little bit back here. It'll look really cool, hopefully, once all the color's on it. And again, if I did this with black ink, it would kind of, it might make things look too gray. I definitely prefer the brown ink for this sort of a project. It's really fun. There we go. I'm trying to keep an eye on like how dark things are looking. There we go. So as the sun goes down, I'll then need to turn my light back on. Oh, okay. Van Feeling has to run. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, and I will tune into you in a couple of hours, hour and a half, to hear your awesome DJ tunes. Which I know there's much cooler. Your noir, angsty, feline-y, cool music. I don't know, something like that. My brain just is a little kid and says, awesome DJ tunes. Okay. Let me see if I can use the sun's starting to go down. Usually I just use my light, but the sun was still coming through the curtains even with them pulled, which was pretty crazy. Let's see if that works. There we go. That's pretty good. Oh, you have to go get ready. Awesome. I'll probably be in my pajamas since no one will be able to see me if I'm dancing in my pajamas. Okay. So let's see. I feel like this is probably going to be a teapot with kind of some gold colored fancy stuff on it, but the teapot itself will be white, so I won't have to do much other than the shading I've already done. I'm just going to throw some quick little, I'm using my favorite Daniel Smith quinacridone gold, which took me a long time to learn how to pronounce, and I'm probably still not saying it right because nobody can. It has a really long name, which is this vibrant gold color, but you can also use something like yellow ochre for this that's a little more common in sets. And I've seen a lot of tea sets that actually do have like, oh, they're always streaming while you're at work. Well, you can listen to music while you work. I don't know if you put up with it. I feel like it would kind of motivate you. I was watching Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist earlier, which on paper as a concept is everything I would hate about a show, but I love the show, which I think is so funny. Like, I don't like musicals. I don't like kind of life comedy dramas usually in that sense. But that has such a good cast, and the songs are so carefully chosen. It's sung so well, and there is a wit and just a lovable nature to the characters that I'm kind of addicted. They had The Sound of Silence as a song in the episode that I was watching today, which I think is the newest one, which is a Simon and Garfunkel song that I grew up listening to all the time. So I thought that was pretty cool. I love that they kind of style the characters and make them not who you would ever expect to sing the songs they do, which I think is really cool. They don't really gender lock songs, so they often have characters of a different gender from the original singer singing a song, or have them singing them in unusual situations, and it's very thoughtfully done, which I think is why I'm okay with it. Because I was not a fan of things like Glee. It's just not something I really like that much. So I was very surprised that that one. I don't know if the characters just got to me. And then I watched The Rookie because who doesn't want to see Nathan Fillion as a police officer in all sorts of mischief every week? I think that's why we all watch it. Though the supporting cast is really good too. So I was watching those while I was making magnets and keychains and other stuff to send out to my awesome Patreon subscribers, and they all went out today. So the only thing that's still going out tomorrow are the bigger paintings. They're actually all packaged. They just can't go in the mailbox for pickup, so I have to schedule pickups for those. There we go. So there's the fancy gold teapot, and I'll probably do. I like to use like a pale blue or a pale purple sometimes for some of my shadows, and I've already got some of the brown on here, so I won't need very much. So I'm just gonna put in. Well, you guys can see that because it's very light, but just some touches of blue. For some reason, this is now reminding me of the teapot from Beauty and the Beast, which I'm not even a huge fan of. So I guess that one's kind of frilly though, and it's kind of white and gold. So that's why this reminds me of it. So yeah, I don't think this is going to need that much in the way of color, which is why I'm doing it first, because I try to do lighter things and then do darker things. That way I'm not smudging darker colors onto lighter areas, hopefully, if I'm careful. Otherwise, there is trusty white ink to correct things. Yeah, see, we've got 4 or 5 people tuning in, so if you guys have questions or if I'm just your background entertainment, that's fine too. I'm kind of good either way. I'm hoping to get this mostly finished up in the next couple minutes. We'll see. Figure try to at least get most of the painting done, but I think it depends how late I want to go because I want to tune into the DJing too, and I wanted to stop streaming around 6, which is about 20 minutes. So I don't know. We'll see. I might make this at 6:30. Okay, so then we get this dragon on the top here. And I'm just trying to, because I did not plan on a color scheme first. Sometimes I do. I knew this was going to be a white and gold tee, but I'm trying to decide if I want to go brighter colors or more pastel colors for these guys. I mean, they can be bright and pastel, but I'm trying to kind of select the colors in my mind. I think we'll make this guy green. I mean, he'll have some variation, but I think I'll start off, and I'm gonna actually use peacock green on him because that's a really kind of pretty blue green color. It almost looks teal, but it's slightly greener. And I'm gonna start out with it really light, and then I will use a smaller brush once it's dry, and we'll go do some details on top of it. I used to buy really expensive brushes, but I honestly destroy brushes between using them for ink and painting up to 20, 25 pictures a month. I still get decent brushes, but I buy the ones I can get like a pack of them so that they last a little more. The bigger brushes tend to last longer. The small ones, because there's fewer hairs, they just get worn out pretty fast for me, especially when I do things like ink pictures like this. Oh, he's so cute. And I'm going to put a little more of yellow green in with this. I'm just starting it off with this more blue green color, which is a nice color, I think. But I want him to stand out a little more from the teapot. Right now he's blending in too much. So I'm deciding if I want to go more blue with him or more green with him. I think we're going to go more green with him. I don't know. Choices. Or I could go crazy. I think I might give him a pink belly because I think that would be really fun. I very sparingly use the very bright pink, and I'm not waiting for this to dry completely because I want it to blend in and not be totally separate from the color I already put in. So I'm going to blend it kind of over my paint, which is mostly still damp. Yeah, that's going to be cute. Now he's a pink-bellied tiny tea drake. And I think they use their curly tails to hang off of like the handles and spouts of teapots and teacups. Or at least curl around them. That's why they have these curly tails. There we go. So you can see my brown ink is not smudging at all. I can actually bring this in a little closer while we're working on that, guys. So you guys can see him better. There we go. He's just a happy little dude. Like this is not. Oh, I know what's up with it. Trying to get a little sharper. There we go. At least my camera has adjustments so I can tweak them like that. So I think I usually make the belly of the dragon and the inside of the wings match, because on real animals that is often the case. They have a lighter belly, kind of the webbing part of the wings often matches. He's so cute. One of these days I'll stream a obnoxiously cute creature. We'll make one that's so cute that it's annoying to look at, but then I'll get all annoyed when I'm like halfway through drawing or painting it because it'll just be staring at me with giant cute eyes. Okay. I think I'm going to use that same pink, but a lot more of it for the eye there. We'll let that dry. And then I'm going to come in with both my peacock green and a little bit of, I think it's called Viridian Hue, which is a bit more of a green. But it should blend really well with my peacock green. Yeah. I just need a bigger paintbrush. That one's obnoxiously small and it's going to take me forever. There we go. I've been seeing some very strange news stories. I think I'm actually more afraid of what people are going to do going stir crazy or out of boredom than I am of getting sick at this point. Partly because I'm pretty sure I've already had it. Somewhere on the news I saw that somebody got arrested or pulled over or hit something. I'm trying to remember. But the guy was trying to teach his dog how to drive. And I know we said it's a good time to learn new things because we're all cooped up, but that might be a bit much. I don't think the dog really appreciated it either. I think the dog was okay, though. I don't think the dog got hurt. I think it was one of those moments. Of course, that guy might have just been nuts anyway. Yeah, I think doing paintings is one of the things that keeps me from going totally stir crazy. Let's see if I can push the. I was trying to get the saturation up, but yeah, you guys just aren't seeing it quite as green as it looks on paper, but that's okay. It's hard for me to get the camera adjusted sometimes. You can see how cute it looks though, and that's what counts. Yeah, so if you've never worked with watercolor, it is all about just building layers of color. If you're going to be overlapping colors and you're not sure how they look, you should test them out first on a scrap piece of paper. Some people even keep little books of all the color schemes and color combos they've tried, little labels of like this was this brand of paint. And I used to do that more. I don't as much. I'm kind of painting so often. I'm pretty familiar with the colors. Well, this guy's pretty small, so not going to need too much detail. I'm going to come in with some white ink when he is completely dry, and we'll add some nice little highlights to his eyes and things like that. One of the cool things about streaming on Twitch is that I actually get to have friends like Vamp Feline who stop in a couple hours before they DJ, who probably wouldn't stop by the coffee shop if I was there. Or maybe my Discord chat is just kind of fun to have another way to talk to everybody and kind of keep up with. I actually feel like I know more about my friends and what's going on with them now that we're all at home, just because we are being so much more active on digital media and kind of all talking to each other that way. Then I think he needs just a little bit of green in the wings. I'm not going to do too much, which will probably look kind of blue on top of this, but that's okay. I'm going to add a little bit and blend it down so that it kind of all blends together. That looks pretty good. One dragon down. And as I said, I'm going to put highlights in the last. I'm thinking about keeping this teapot fairly light, so I'm not too worried about adding too much more shading to this. I might add a little bit of my other favorite Daniel Smith color, which you guys see me use a lot, which is called Moon Glow. And it is this marvelous color that is kind of like a dull purple with some blue in it. It's really great for doing shadows of all kinds. Try not to get too much, there we go, too much glare. Change the angle of the light so it doesn't catch too much water and glare, because once this dries, the glare is gone. But there we go, just to give this teapot a little more depth. As you can see, like the brown is just kind of blending in with it pretty nicely. It's not as stark as if I'd used black ink, which is cool. Now let's see. I don't want these all to be kind of the same tea set, so I think it'd be fun if there were a variety of different colors. So what I'm trying to decide now is like, what color is this little guy going to be? I mean, they're the same species, but we've decided that they come in a variety of colors. Because whatever color he's going to be, I want to make sure I use something quite different on the sugar bowl behind him so that he won't get kind of lost in there. And I want to make sure that the creamer that he's sitting in also looks like a different color. I'm thinking maybe one of them will be maybe a blue dragon and one will be a pink dragon, kind of like the colors I used on our guy at the top, but I will kind of reverse them so he's more pink and less blue. And I'm just debating what this guy should be, but I think it'd be cool if I made him blue. So I'm just trying to decide what the sugar bowl behind him should be. I'm going to add a little more shading on here with my purple. Trying to decide if it's a lighter colored sugar bowl, if I want to go somewhere weird with the colors. Because I thought it'd be fun to do this as a really colorful piece too. Because if I just shade it like that, everything's going to look white, and that's no fun. So if he's going to be, maybe we'll have him be the pink one so I can make the sugar bowl blue, because I think that would be cool. And I've looked at a lot of China when doing different, a lot of paintings that have mugs and teacups and things. So I'm a little more familiar than I used to be with how the shading should be on them, how light should fall. And again, I'm using kind of our standard default light, which means the light is up in this corner of the paper and is coming down this way. So this guy up here, the lightest part of him is going to be the top of his face, things like that. I think I'm going to get into some really wacky colors, maybe introduce some purples and things. Oh, I could make one of the dragons purple too. I didn't think about that. So I was going to make some of the mugs, some of the teacups have some crazy stripes and patterns on them too. So I'm just using, trying to think, I think this is cobalt blue. And then a little bit of my moon glow for shadows. And I tend to put it on a little more intense and then blend it out a bit. And I'm just gonna get the base color kind of the way I want, and then I'll be blending some more shadow color. Like I think there should be a shadow in this part. There we go. So I don't know. I used to think people would be really bored watching me paint, but everybody says it's really cool to see everything sort of appear and come together. And I don't know. I think people picture something really magical, and then it's just me sitting for a long time with a small paintbrush. Now, usually on these the spoon matches, so maybe have it be a little lighter, but throw some blue on there too. I actually don't have a tea set with a sugar bowl myself, and I was noticing that because sugar bowls have a special meaning if you are a fan of Series of Unfortunate Events and the Lemony Snicket books. So I felt like I had to include a sugar bowl in here, and then realized I don't. I have teacups, I have coffee cups, well, mugs, and I actually have a couple of teapots. I have one that heats on the stove, and then I have a simple white one, and then a couple I've painted myself. But I don't have a creamer, and I guess I don't do really fancy tea this way, so I don't have a sugar bowl. Am I familiar with calamity? Is that a type of like tea set or dishes? Calamity ware? I don't think I'm familiar with it. Sometimes I've seen something though, and I don't know the name. It's a brand. Um, if it's very distinctive, I probably have seen it and not realized that's what it's called. Um, I'm familiar with some of the antique brands because I am totally guilty of watching Storage Wars. So even before then, my grandmother and my mom had some stuff. My mom used to collect some tea sets, so I know what like Wedgwood looks like. And if you ever find anything that's colored glass, never assume it's worthless, because some colored glass things are very expensive. Okay, so now there is a sugar bowl, which again I will add some more highlights with white. Now I'm very curious about that. Is it like a okay, like classic blue and white? Oh, but it has monsters hidden in it. Okay. So it's a line of china that looks kind of more like the Asian or the really fancy I don't know what they're called. What those brands are called with like the filigree kind of stuff, but it's like a two color, but it has monsters in it. Okay, cool. So it must be a newer calamity ware. It must be a newer line of china. Whenever you talk about things being hidden in China, and I gotta keep it PG because we're on Twitch and I allow kids to tune in, but if you've ever seen the movie The Birdcage, that has one of the funniest moments with a set of dinnerware that I ever seen. Oh, he got started on Kickstarter. That's cool. I know a lot of really cool creators who got started on Kickstarter. And it's a great way for creators to do things where they have more say kind of in what they're doing, I think. A lot of times if you are going with oh, cool. You yeah, I don't know why I associate China with that movie, but I just do. Okay, so I'm thinking this little guy in front, he's actually might be cool if I did him yellow and pink. And then this guy will probably be more of a purple. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm trying to figure out how to keep the cups different kind of colors. Like if I make him more of a pale yellow, he'll really show up good here, and I'll give him like little pink highlights too, so he'll kind of match the other one. Um, this guy, this guy's a challenge because I kind of want these to be violets, which means the cup should have some purple. Choices. Or they could be yellow flowers. I could do them as yellow flowers and do like a yellow and red cup or something here. I did kind of want to do more whimsical colors. So the trick is figuring out how to do the lightest colors first so I don't muck up what's going on. I might make this guy green as well, but just do a really different green. Yeah, we'll do him with kind of a yellowy green and then something different for his belly. And usually I plan my colors out more than this, but figured we'd kind of have fun with this one. So since he's probably going to be the lightest, I'm painting him first, and then I will paint the mug. The nice thing is that my ink lines kind of create borders, so it makes it a little bit easier to not worry about your paint bleeding into other things as much. I think maybe these dragons change color when they're young, and then when they kind of reach adulthood, and maybe the colors they change to are inspired by different sets of china. And when they reach adulthood, they have to kind of be more of a fixed color, like they stop changing. That'd be kind of a neat idea. Okay, so he's kind of a paler one, and I'm going to give him a little bit of yellow. And then once he's dry, I'll do some more shading on him. And then this guy, I really just want to make him yellow to start with. I'm not too worried that I want to level over his scales on his back with the blue because I'm going to come in. First of all, it would reflect a little on him. Secondly, I'm going to come in with some white ink at the end for some of the details. So I was taught a long time ago it's better to get smoother color and worry less about being inside your lines because you can always clean up your lines later if needed. Oh, they're so happy. Yeah, I'm going to put some more onto that guy up there. I'm just kind of letting him dry a bit first. I think this is going to end up being a very crazy colored cup. I really want to use some wacky colors on some of these. Kind of wish I'd gone full Tim Burton with the teapot instead of as traditional as I went. I actually painted a ridiculous monster teapot once. Like, not a picture of one, but an actual teapot. I used to paint china with special French paints that are, once you fire the china at a very low temperature in your oven, and then it's dishwasher and microwave safe, so you can paint your own mugs and cool things like that. Yeah, this is going to be a good set of colors. I'm going to use some of my moon glow to do some of the shadow in here, but I'm add just a little bit of that purple in so that it kind of matches. The problem is when I paint really wacky looking mugs and things, I always end up wishing that I owned them. Like, why is this not a piece of china I can own? And I think this is going to end up being a paler blue here. Then I'll do something else for the flowers. Maybe pink for the flowers. I don't know, he needs some more color on him. I'm debating how dark I want to go. This guy's going to kind of have some more orange with his yellow, so he's going to be our very sort of sunny dragon. That's why he looks so happy. Ooh, I could also have them just change color depending on their moods. That would be fun too. My problem is usually not that I get blocked or have a shortage for ideas, but that I have too many ideas and I will never have enough time to paint all of them or write about all of them. So I'm happy to get to share some of them on Twitch and more of them on Patreon and Kickstarter. And I think my Kickstarter is in its last 2 days. So if you want an awesome coloring book, you can still go grab that. We even have digital copies, and I'm going to get the digital version of the coloring book out almost right away. Because folks who are stuck at home, I really want you guys to have that this week. So I think we'll probably do something where we lock down the digital pledges first. Or I might even put an option on your survey that says lock down right away or not, just so that you can have your goodies sooner rather than later. And I'm definitely going to introduce some more oranges and reds because right now this looks very it's very blue heavy. I just get like one hair. I have a curse too when I go and I go to paint anywhere. I always get one fly that finds me if I go to paint in a coffee shop. There's just always one. Doesn't matter what time of year it is, for some reason one always finds me. Okay, so the trick is I don't want our dragons to too much match the teapots because that'd be weird. Like they should have different colors than the china. So I want to make sure that if I'm doing blue ones or green ones that I'm not matching the paint too closely. We're definitely going to add some brighter colors in here. I might even add some touches of red to this background teapot with the gold just because I don't want it to feel too disjointed from the other bright colors I'm going to do. And I definitely want some oranges and reds in here because right now I feel like this is way too pastel and I don't want it to get too boring. So I think he is going to have kind of yellowy eyes. So do that in yellow for right now. Okay. Next, the trick is too when you're doing something that has a lot of little areas like this is you don't want to be leaning over stuff that's wet because you don't want to smudge it, but you also need to let things dry. Like I need to let this blue and this purple dry before I paint the flowers, just so that they don't end up smudged. You don't want to put your hand in that, or you don't want it to bleed or to smudge out. I would totally use a teacup that has this design too. I think it's really fun. I might get a little wackier with this as I add some more shading and colors as well. Okay, so just checking our time. We're doing pretty good. So far I've put about an hour and a half into this, which is honestly, since we started with a simple pencil sketch, is pretty good. So because I want this to be a little more wacky, choices you can't go back from, but I'm totally going to do it. I'm actually going to add these kind of cool red stripes, and it's going to be on the orange side of red for this part. should look pretty neat. Because I definitely want this to go on the more fantastical side for the china and stuff like that. But you wouldn't want to add these earlier when this was wet because it would have all bled together and been a big mess. So it is a trick of letting it dry. And I've had a lot of fun doing like monster teapots and stuff before too. Um, but since this is supposed to be actual china and it's not supposed to be alive, that's something we haven't put in the book yet, is any sort of drinkware that is alive. Maybe it guards drinks or imbues the drinks with special properties. I'd love to do like a teapot monster or even some kind of beer stein, but because they have really fancy beer steins. That is something that exists. And have them be kind of alive a bit. Maybe certain things turn to poison inside them if the wrong person tries to drink from them or something. That would be cool. That's more like the whimsical look I was going for. Now I just have to continue that, and since this is a little wet, I've got to be careful not to lean on that part while I'm working on this part, but I want to kind of suggest that same pattern. See what a big difference that is already making with kind of the color scheme, because it's kind of popping it up a lot more. And that's color schemes are something you can learn just from intuition and practice, or there's all sorts of good books you can get. I should probably put up a page with like books Jessica recommends that you look at about art that are not my own. I mean, I've done a couple of how to draw books and how to paint books, but there's a few that I just love. And one of the first things that taught me to draw, and this is, I don't think you would remember this unless you were a child of the 80s who watched public television at a very specific time. And I'm not even sure that everywhere had it. It might have just been East Coast public television, but there used to be a show called Secret City. And it was part of the Mark Kissler Draw Squad. And you can actually get books of his still. I have a couple of them. But it was one of the most fun how to draw shows. And it was specifically for kids. And it was just about making art. And they would teach you how to draw three-dimensional shapes and fun things like that. And then at the very end, he is working on this huge mural. And he would show you how to use the shapes you'd learned or the creatures you'd learned that episode, how to add them into the mural, which I thought was really cool. And he's still somebody whose books I recommend. I don't think you can actually find the TV series anywhere. I looked for it a couple of years ago, sadly. And I bet it would seem really dated to me now, but it was so fun back then as a kid. It was just, I mean, my brothers would watch every day, and I'd watch Bob Ross and those things too, but that was pretty hard stuff for a kid to learn. And the Draw Squad stuff, that stuff the Secret City stuff, I could just master a little bit better as a child. I think it's weird that we don't have as much of a serious approach to having drawing programs for kids anymore, whether in schools or on TV. It's really sad because being able to communicate visually is a skill that is useful no matter what you end up doing in life. I'm just having fun with this teapot. I might be getting carried away. Is it too crazy? But it's really, really fun. Add a red band up here as well. And I'm pondering if I need full striping on the spout or if I just need that red band that I did. Or if I want to just keep going on with stripes or with other things. Do a couple of them at least. This is completely a teapot I would own if it existed because it's nifty looking. It's fancy, but it's fancy in a crazy fantasy sort of way. Yeah, I like a little on the spout. I don't think it needs more than that. And I'm debating if I need. Well, I probably should show a little bit because this is the bottom of the teapot down here. It's in shadow, so you won't see as much. And I want to show a little bit there. And I was debating if I want to do a couple more of these sorts of light stripy highlights on it too. There we go. And I think I need just a little more because what happens when you have an object that's lighter and you have these brighter colors is they actually reflect in it. So if it's white and it's got these reds, some of that red's going to get picked up by the teapot. And I really want to make sure that that is apparent, but I don't need it to be too strong. So I'm just adding a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. It's getting close. Let me grab a bigger brush. Just trying to add a little more shading. Yeah, I don't think I'm totally going to finish this in 2 hours. I didn't think so. I can do a little one in 2 hours, but we're coming up on an hour and 45 minutes, and I still have a lot of painting left to do. So I'm just pulling in my shading a little more. I want there to be some highlights on this, but I don't think it needs to be super bright white everywhere. So I'm kind of going to blend it in a little more, and then I might paint some highlights on here with white ink later. But I just decided it needs to be a little darker, so there we go. That's a good basis. And then once I come in and I kind of add some of the highlights onto this, it should look pretty good. Okay, so we got that stuff. We got this guy who needs a little more green. And then I'm just going to create a little bit more shadow. This is the cool thing about that color I keep mentioning, Moon Glow, is that it works over just about any other color to add shadows. So if you have a bunch of stuff painted in, you can just do this. And now it's partly in shadow, but it's not completely in shadow, which is cool. He's just hanging out in this funky little flowery cup. And yeah, like I think the sugar bowl will look a little bit better too once I get to put the highlights on it. And then this guy, I think these borders are going to be very pink flowers. So I could have gone very like natural, realistic colors for a lot of the china, but I think it's not nearly as much fun as if we go all a bit crazy like this. I think it's a lot more fun. Okay, so I think this is going to be lighter, this creamer, because I want it to kind of balance with some of these darker colors. So I'm just going to add some shading. And there's going to be a blue stripe on it as well because I have a stripe around the edge at the top. But it's going to stay a little bit more of a light color. in the general scheme of this picture. I think I got started doing a lot more household stuff with my first picture book, Dragons in the Library. I started doing dragons eating cupcakes and flowers. Basically, the dragons in that book, they just destroy everything. And that kind of got me into drawing the household dragons, especially there's some dragons that are just making a huge mess with the jars of peanut butter and jelly in that book. And that definitely was the beginning of a lot of this sort of art. I like doing the big serious fire breathing dragons too, but I don't think we get to see that much of the little household dragons, so I try to include them as well. We actually got a lot done so far, though. I'm realizing I missed a little part of the sugar bullet you can see under his chin, but I can't paint that right now because I just painted all the stuff next to it, and it's going to be too wet to do that, so I'll have to go back and get that part. Okay, then I think this cup here is actually going to kind of match the teapot a bit. I think, unless I go green and gold with it. They're like kittens. I guess they're a little like kittens. I mean, they might be cute, but they also make a lot of trouble. Though it depends on the kitten, because I've had a bunch of kittens and they're all different. Some of them cause a lot more trouble than others. And like our youngest cat, the first 6 months, she was kind of an angel. I mean, she played a bit, but she was really good. And now she's a demon. Now that she's like a year old, it's like she was waiting to hit the cat equivalent of the terrible twos. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get to finish this because a lot of the detail and stuff. It's gonna take about another 30-45 minutes, and I want a little break before I tune into Vamp Feline's DJ stream tonight, so I think I might have to come back to this guy tomorrow and we'll add a lot more detail because I don't want to rush this one too much. I think it'd be cool to build a lot of nifty detail into this one. So I think I'm going to wind down and knock off. If anybody has any questions or comments the last couple minutes here, I am super happy to answer them. But we're coming up on 2 hours, and this is probably going to need another 45 minutes to an hour at least. Usually this size picture is a 3 or 4 hour thing, counting the time to do the concept sketch and all that stuff. So with the sketching time, which I did right before the video, we're probably already looking at well over 2 hours. So I'll have to think about coming back to this guy maybe tomorrow morning, and I'm trying to kind of alternate morning and evening streams if I can, so different groups of people can tune in. This is my favorite guy right here. He's just so happy. There we go. Otherwise, I guess I will see all of you guys either later tonight if you're attending the dance stream, or probably tomorrow or the day after in my other streams as I'm finishing this guy up. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get to all the details and all the highlights. And I don't know, now this teapot being this big blank thing is kind of bugging me, so I'm gonna let it sit and I'm gonna think about if I want to do like some kind of cool swirly patterns or something on it. make it an uber fancy teapot. But I don't want it to be too busy, so I think we'll let it sit, look at it again tomorrow. And the main thing I'm going to be doing tomorrow, one of the things, and I'll just do one little sample of it now. I've talked about this a lot in the stream, is I use white acrylic ink. Sometimes I use the same brand that I use for the brown, which would be FW. In this case, I'm using Diedler, which is Diedler. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Diedler, which is I think a Japanese brand. It is used by Japanese manga comic book artists, and it is basically. Let me zoom this guy up a bit. And can I get him a little sharper in here? Why he's not looking that sharp? Why focus? Nope, that makes it less focused. All right. My camera's just going to be difficult, I think. Yeah. I wanted to, well, probably what I'll have to do is just move the camera tomorrow to show more of the details, because I use this white ink to really highlight them up. But I will have to show you guys that tomorrow when we get better lighting, and I will move the camera closer because I don't think it can just go sharp enough. And I'm going to add highlights to all of like the sugar bowl and all that. And hope you guys have a good evening. And we'll probably put another hour into this tomorrow and make it an awesome, finished, goofy, crazy, Dr. Seussy, Alice in Wonderlandy looking picture. So until then, have a good night. Stay safe. Stay out of trouble. Stay home, hopefully, but don't get too bored. And I will see you guys later.